Welcome to the Autosportradio.com show. We are coming to you from Green Street Pub and Eatery at 911 North Green Street in Brownsburg. This program is being presented by the Indy Dental Group. Indy 500 veteran Dr. Jack Miller and his wife Dr. Liz Lewis have a phenomenal practice. They're now up to 6 offices. If you need dental work, you think you haven't had any check lately, you need to check them out. Give them a call, make an appointment. The number is 317-846-6125. Their main office is at 92nd and Meridian. It's easy to get to off the interstate. If you need dental work or you haven't had a check them out. Need insurance? VP Insurance is the place to go. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street, about a mile straight west of the Speedway. You can talk to Mike Pardee or Tom, find out what you need, they'll help you out. And I've been with them for over 30 years, and every time I check, like the insurance commissioner says, they're the best. Give them a call. The number is 317-248-0070. SVRA, what a phenomenal organization it is. They got the F3 and the F4 series now, run by Scott Goodyear. They have brought back the Trans Am series to bigger than what it used to be. It's phenomenal. Want to find out where they're performing or what the events are? Go to svra.com and you'll be glad you did. They got sports cars, vintage sports cars. They got the Trans Am. They got the F3 and the F4. They got a full weekend when you go see them. A couple of notices I want to mention. First off, the in-house sound is courtesy of Pierce Sound. So we want to thank Chad for helping us out. Now, in case you hadn't heard, the former media director of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, in fact, the press room at Gamebridge Fieldhouse is named the Bill York Media Center. He passed away just a couple, 3 days ago. He was a great guy. I knew him for many, many years, and I haven't talked to him in the last 5 or 6 months, and I figured now I won't be able to. I thought about it, but I didn't want to call him at 3 o'clock in the morning when it hit me. You didn't call him. So we lost Bill York, and also one of the all-time greatest stock car racers in America, Scott Bloomquist, at the age of 60, was flying his own, I understand, a vintage plane, and he crashed and was killed on his property. And they're going to have a memorial for him at Eldora upcoming, and they're going to have another one, some other track that I've heard of but don't know where it is. But Scott Bloomquist has won about everything there is to do in stock car racing. He's won the Dream at Eldora a number of times. He's won everything. He's one of the all-time best drivers, and that's in those series. Our next scheduled programs are September 12th and September 2nd and the 14th, and October 9th and the 22nd. I'm working on some guests, and there could be a change, but keep it in mind. I'll let you know when we get it put together. I got something we're working on. It could be very interesting. Now, my first guest, gentleman that I have probably known for 30 years as well, off and on. He's an outstanding Indy Car driver. He just found out that it was a good choice he made because he tried to get into a Kenyan midget and thought that wasn't a good idea. But he's now working with the F4 series, part of the SVRA program. He's the director of that, doing very well. As I said, a former IndyCar driver and one of the best at it. Please welcome Mr. Scott Goodyear.
Ron, thank you. I always enjoy coming.
Well, nice of you to have the time off finally.
I did, in full disclosure, I did miss the last one. He called me and I went, we were on our way to an event that weekend, and I think I may have done this for a few years. I probably should know how to do that, right? That was, unfortunately didn't make it. I apologize for that.
That's all right.
It's probably 2 things I've missed in my whole complete career. And one of them was in Toronto when I was just starting off, and I've always remembered that I never made it. And then yours was the second, so that's not a bad record, I guess, after only 10 years doing the sport.
Oh, geez, yeah, 10 years my foot. Do you miss broadcasting?
I did a little bit of that last year because Tony Perella, which owns our whole overall group, which is SVRA, Trans Am, TA2, has now bought IGT. Our stuff with JSF4, F4, and FR, and a bunch of other stuff that he's got. I probably did 6 or 7 shows last year. for Trans Am with MAV TV, because they're on MAV TV all the time. They're on MAV TV tomorrow, actually, because they're up at Watkins Glen racing at the Glen, and Trans Am TA2's on Friday, Trans Am, the big Trans Am cars are on Sunday. So did, 6 or 7 of those last year with Jonathan Green, a couple the year before. So I got involved in that only because Tony called me, and he said, hey, I know I didn't hire you for this. I hired you to run the F4 and the FR stuff, but do you mind doing a couple of television shows? I said, sure. This was on a Tuesday. And I said, yeah, so guess I can do that. We started chatting a little bit about it, and then I said, which track is it at? And that was actually a couple of years ago when they did the Roval for Trans Am at Charlotte. And I said, okay, when is it? And he said, well, it's this weekend. So I said, there is some prep time, Tony, just to get to know everything that's going on. And they're with us each and every weekend, but you're so absorbed in what you're doing with your stuff. You know the Trans Am race is taking place. So yeah, I just did a quick study and then went over there and hopped in there with Jonathan Green, and we had fun. It was nice, and then got obviously asked to come back numerous times. This year we're running 3 classes, or I'm responsible for 3 classes in our single-seater stuff, so there's just no time on weekends, unfortunately.
What's it like being a director? You're in charge of these 3 series, and do you coach kids as well? Do you help the young drivers coming up?
I think I'd like to say yes in a sense. It's not my job per se, but previous to when I started my career, I came out of CARTs, got into Formula Ford, ran Formula Ford for 3 years, had owed a bunch of money, had won some stuff, but didn't have any money to move to Atlantic Cars at that time. And so I ended up opening a school with a colleague of mine, and we had 6 Formula Fords, association with BMW. I enjoyed teaching and did that stuff. Had that for a couple of years until I got an opportunity to get back to racing. So I had been involved in the school business, owning it and doing the teaching work. We're a family of teachers, I guess, because my mother was a teacher, my sister's a teacher, my daughter's a teacher. I don't see myself as a teacher. I just like to help and assist. So I think when you ask me that question, my job is I am actually the manager for our programs and then also the race director. So you're standing up in race control, operating the whole thing. Anything that goes on track is sort of like my responsibility. But what I've done when I first got there is started putting together driver's notes, and I write them as a first person. So it's almost like I'm sitting back in an F4 car, and what to do when you leave your paddock, how you leave the pit lane, how to blend onto the racetrack, what to watch out for, how to warm your car up, all the stuff that goes with it, and also coming into the pit lane, what to do. And the reason I say that, and it sounds, obviously we all know that we watch it, and it sounds rudimentary, but everybody that comes to us in F4 comes out of karting. And in karting, if you've ever been to kart tracks, I mean, they have a stoppage and they put the green flag up and let the kids go. I mean, there's a little narrowing there, like a funnel, and they almost climb over each other just to get out on the racetrack. There's no organization, there's no system, there's nothing. And I went to the first race that I did with this, and I looked at it and I thought, I'm just surprised we didn't have like 10 cars crash, because it was awful. So I looked at that and I thought, okay, I'm going to really, I thought maybe it's something that they would learn at a younger age, or their teams would tell them about it. I mean, the teams are working on cars and setup and stuff like that. It seemed like I need to really get down to the basics. So that's what I started doing, and I send about 10, 11, 12 pages out before every race of driver's notes, and it's all the explanations of everything. And so yeah, you're teaching from a sense. We run underneath FI rules. So there's different flagging rules, all that's in the driver's notes, and then I put together PowerPoint presentations. So we have 2 meetings on the weekend, one's for practice leading up to qualifying, and it's all about the track with pictures of the track and everything's on the PowerPoint, and then I do a meeting before the race. So I'd like to think that they're getting information that will lead them into not making mistakes when they get up to the next level. And I guess the other side of that too is I don't want them to get to the next level and make a mistake and somebody go, where the hell did you come from? What racetrack were you at? I don't want them to go, oh, I was racing Scott Goodyear's F4 series. That wouldn't be very good. So I thought I'd better get them and let them understand exactly what's going on.
Have any of your kids gone on and gone into the IndyCar ladder system at all?
Yeah, when I'll back up a little bit. When my son was coming out of karting, F4 came into this country in 2016. It was a delayed entry, supposed to start in May. I don't think it started really until July. So we got a car and we did a couple of races that year. There's 4 races. I think we did 2 because my son went back to university. And he was taking accounting major, insurance risk management major, and it was actually his decision. He goes, Dad, I'd like to do the last couple of events, but I'm so socked in with, with studies. So, so I knew about the F4 car. At that time, Kyle Kirkwood was going through the system. So he went through and won the F4 series a little bit later on. I got involved in it, and he had come through there and won the F3 series, FR series, and then he moved from there into Indy Lights, and Indy Next it's called now. Linus Lindquist, Benjamin Pedersen, who's been there and gone, and David Malukas. A lot of guys came through our system, and they come through our system, and then they move into Indy Lights or Indy Next cars, and then they get into Indy cars. So we got a couple of guys in Europe, but probably 3 or 4 guys in Indy cars. So it works. The system works.
Well, that's good. Now, you were saying that your son had a couple of opportunities to drive. And when you said, here, we can do this, we'll put a program together to this point, and he said, no. So what is he doing?
Well, actually, it was interesting because he found a go-kart rental track at 11 and a half years old and said to my wife, Leslie, and I came home and goes, why have you never taken me to a go-kart track? Well, there's a reason for that, right? So we never had anything motorized or powered in the garage or anything like that. The kids do every other sport underneath the sun. Christopher, who's older than Michael, and then our daughter, Haley. And so anyways, I took him, I called Mark Dismore, who Mark and I have known each other since we've been 10 years old, racing go-karts against each other. And I called Mark and I said, hey, need to come out, need a cart just to go around. And Michael went up there and did that, so we ended up liking it, and we bought a go-kart. I was doing full-time television at that point in time, so we had to hire somebody to take him to the go-kart track, and my wife took him, and somebody else ran him. On weekends, I might have got to 1 or 2 events a year. And he just excelled. He probably won, he was there 7 years, probably won 6 championships. And then out at Newcastle, which is a great racetrack, it's one of the highest level tracks in the country. If you can win there, you can win at a national level for sure. And he went to his second big national event and won the second time doing that, which is probably only his 20th race in a go-kart or something like that. So he had the ability, enjoyed it, did very well. We got involved in F4 in that 2016 season, like I said, when it came. And later that year, he decided he was going to stay in studies. 17, he went and did some stuff with a team of a friend of mine in Canada called FAF Motorsport, which is running IMSA. And he and I actually did an enduro race. That's probably the most fun I've had in a race car. I got to race with my son in 2017 in a 3-hour endurance race at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, which is my home track, and which we won. We were in a BMW touring car, and we won GT2 class, and it was a lot of fun to stand up on the podium with him. I didn't think about it because I had to meet him there. I was coming from the West Coast doing some business stuff, and we got there, and the weekend went by quickly, and it was a 3-hour race. He ran 2.5 hours, and the only reason I did 30 minutes was because each driver had to do a minimum of 30 minutes, so I got in there at the last 30 minutes. So, and he was faster than me, by the way. I'll make that clear at that point in time too. So, so that was a lot of fun. And then afterwards, I got off the podium and I went, oh, that was really cool. And then I go back and look at pictures and I go, I was so busy still in life doing some work that I had in Canada that I didn't take it in enough, absorb it enough ahead of time. But he did that. In the end result, went back the next year and did a couple of races up there with FAP. Matter of fact, that 3-hour race I couldn't do the next year, and he did it with Sam Fellows, Ron Fellows' son. And you know how tall Ron is. His son's about the same thing. My son's 6'1", and so yes, he's my son. I almost had to have him checked, right? So he's 6'1", and Ron Fellows' son, Sam, I think is 6'4", so they fit in the car really well together. So and then he was in school, and then we talked about it a lot, and he said he was going to stay being an accountant in insurance risk management, loves business. And then he came home December of the 4th year of school from university at Christmas time and said to Leslie and I don't think I want to be an accountant. And we went, okay, we've just paid for, well, you've already paid for the last semester. You've paid for 4 years of school. And I said to him, well, you're going to finish, And he goes, oh yeah, I'm going to finish. And he was on Dean's List, did a great job, great grades. And he said, I want to become a pilot. I go, okay.
Same thing.
Well, and I said, well, if we had known that, we would have sent you to Purdue, right? You know, because that would be the place to go to. So in the end result, we said we're going to go up to our little airport in Zionsville, and you can start to take private lessons. And he's lucky because he had traveled on a plane a lot. And so he got to get up there and get his private pilot's license, and he decided actually when he was doing that I really like this, I want to go the next step and become a commercial pilot. So from there, he went to the Lift Academy, which is here in Indianapolis, owned by Republic. It's at the airport. If you ever see the big Lift sign that's on the building, they run a great program there. So he's done that. He's graduated with that, and he's signed a contract with Republic Airlines. So he'll, as a matter of fact, he just came back from Dallas a couple of days ago. He's doing a FAA program. And he sent me a picture because he thought it was cool. He was doing simulator work in Airbus 320. So he loves it. So I'm glad that he's doing that. Probably saved mom and dad a little bit of money, so we're pretty happy with that too, I think.
Speaking of saving mom and dad a little money, do you ever see your old pal that you used to harass back and forth, Scott?
Scott?
I just forgot his name.
Oh, my neighbor, Scott Sharp?
Yeah,
oh,
Scott
yeah.
Sharp, yeah.
I haven't seen Scotty for a long time, actually. Well, I don't know if we harassed. Well, we did harass each other, I guess, when you think about that, yeah. Scott Sharp moved into our neighborhood because they wanted to come to Indianapolis, so they moved down the street from us, him and Kim. And they're separated or divorced now. But we spent a lot of time together, went on vacation with our kids together, and shared a plane together. And then he moved to Florida and got involved with, it was the Tequila Company? Whatever the word was that, I can't recall. Anyways, yeah, he, Patron, so he got involved in endurance racing. And then, so he's out of racing right now. I haven't seen him, quite frankly, for probably 3 years or so, 4 years maybe. Saw him at Detroit. Maybe it's even longer than that. So, yeah. But no, we had a great time. Pranks all the time.
Yes.
And I might be a prankster in our neighborhood. I will put that up right there, right then. Yeah, but he used to always get the newspaper in the morning, and like 3 or 4 newspapers, New York Times and what have you, because he's quite a financial guy, loves the financial papers and stuff like that. So there must be, I don't know, 10, 12 newspapers always on the front lawn or on the driveway, because they come by and throw them in the morning, I guess at 2 in the morning for them, or whatever time. And so we used to always give him a hard time about that. And then myself and 3 or 4 other buddies in the neighborhood, we turned around and started collecting our newspapers. And then over like 3 or 4 weeks, and I went over and bought a big box of, you call them elastics here? I think you call them elastics, don't you? Yeah. Rubber ends. And then, so we sat on the back of my house, my buddies and I, and we must have put together 200 rolls of small papers. Took one newspaper and made 4 or 5 out of them. And then we put them in big garbage bags, and we went over at 2 o'clock one morning and just opened up the bags and just started throwing them all over the place. Driveway, grass, bushes, and all that sort of stuff. So needless to say, when he came out in the morning, he pretty much knew who it was. But yeah, no, there was a lot of stuff. And that all started because I came home one time, and the guys had gone to it was during the month of May, and actually I was running on Firestones that year. And the guys went to the local Goodyear store and got a bunch of old Goodyear tires off of cars and got one of their banners. And I come down my street, and they put the banner up on the front lawn, and the tires all across there. And I just drove in there, and there's neighbors stopped and looking at it, and I'm driving by going, I have no idea whose house that is. So anyways, I went there, and then I waited for the neighbors to leave, and then I zipped in the drive and got in the garage and stuff like that, and went out front and took it all down. I go, I know who did all this. So it just kept going and going and going, and then I was when you're driving a lot, you go see a masseuse. So I'm at this masseuse I've been using all the time. Her husband's a plumber. And I'm coming out, and he had just done a house, and there's like 4 or 5 toilets by their garage. I said, what are you doing with all these? She goes, I can't believe you brought them home. I need to get rid of them. I go, I'll take one off your hands. And she looked at me, said, are you serious? What do you want to do with it? She said, they don't work. I go, it doesn't need to work. So I put it in the back of my truck, and then sat there for a couple of days, and then Scotty was out of town, and I went over there, and I don't know, 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night, and I put it, you know, he walked up the steps to his front door, and down here in the bottom was the garden, set back a little bit, so I took it and put it nicely underneath one of the windows. I had bought a little bit of earth and a little bit of flowers and shrubbery, and stuck it in there and put it like that, and left it there. It was there for weeks. They had not seen it. I mean, going on 3 weeks. And then the guy came to do the gardening and stuff like that, and Kim tells the story. The guy knocks on the door. He goes, "Hi, Mr. Sharp, how are you?" Yeah, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're here to do it. And she's, what do you, should we just leave that there? And she walks at the front door and turns around and looks at it. She goes, "Oh my God." So, she knew who it was, yeah. So it went on like that for a while. I could go on for hours.
Oh, I know. I heard some of the stories.
Yeah. Then there was the murder. That was interesting.
The what?
The murder.
I see.
Yeah. So I had my wife lay on the driveway, got some chalk, and then put that all around there, and have somebody that passed along some crime tape. I wasn't smart when I did it, though, because they were with the Indianapolis Police Department. So it said Indianapolis Police Department on it, and we live in Carmel. So anyways, we did that. Our friends, this was other friends, and so we turned around, and we roped all off the house, and we put a cross on the door and made up a sign that says "Do not enter," and they couldn't even get in their drive, and I happened to be by the house when I heard them, their next door neighbors, so I heard them drive up, and I just stood there by the drive listening, and then the wife gets out of the car and goes, "Oh, God, Tom, what happened here?" She's looking around. She goes, "Oh my God, and somebody died. Look it over here." And she's going through all this horror stuff like that. And I'm trying to not laugh like super loud. And it's going on like that. And they're there for a good 10 minutes and looking, can we go in? I'm not sure. Who do we call? And so finally Tom looks at her and goes, "Megan, we've been had. It's Indianapolis police tape. It's not Carmel." Yeah. So, I mean, there was, I'll tell you the last one, Gary Pedigo. Remember Gary?
Oh, yeah.
And the car dealership. So my other buddy was always giving me a hard time about cars and stuff like that. So he was on vacation. I called Gary because he had done a prank on me. I said, "Do you have like an old car that I can just keep for a couple of days, maybe 4 or 5 days or something like that?" Because my buddy was down in Florida. And he said, "What do you want?" And I said, "I just want to put in the drive, and then I want to put a for sale sign on it. And where we live, you're not supposed to even park outside, but you can't park cars, put for sale signs, all this sort of stuff, right?" And so we got it. And I asked Gary for it, and this had been hit by a train. I mean, the car was like done, right? And so I felt bad after the fact, but it went into the driveway, and the guy had to come on a dolly. And so they picked it up and dropped it in the driveway, and I put a for sale sign on it, and with my buddy Steve's phone number. Okay, so he's still down in Florida, and he's getting all these calls and saying, "Hey, I think that's a Chevy Impala on your front there, and I'm looking for some parts," right? So that was where he get calls for a couple of days, and he goes, "I don't know what this is all about," and he never answered them, obviously. And so he got home and pulled in his drive, and he goes, "Now I get it." So, yeah. Anyways, I could fill you in for a whole hour and a half on that stuff.
Well, I heard some of the stories.
Yeah.
You and Scott and so forth.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Then there's Eddie Cheever, and when we drove together in the garage area. So all his driving equipment, stuff like that. Yeah, it was fun.
Do you follow the series closely at all?
I don't get a chance to follow it as much as I would like to be honest with you. We have in our group coast to coast, 24 races coast to coast a year. We started off in February down at Homestead and Sebring, and then we're on the West Coast because of all the stuff that's with SVRA, Trans Am, IGT, because Tony bought IGT. I'm not involved in all that stuff. Sometimes I go and help on the SVRA and the Trans Am stuff, but I'm somewhere usually a lot, unfortunately. So, and then with our testing stuff, we've got a lot going on. And I'll be honest with you, it was away on the weekend of the 500, but I watched it, which was a great event. I haven't seen any of the recent races. I wish that I could, but yeah, I don't.
What is it about Tony Perella that loved cars, very successful business, bought businesses that were on the way to bankruptcy and turned them around?
Right.
And was a couple of times was listed as one of the top 50 companies in America to work for.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, and he gotten into this thing, and good grief, is he taken off?
I only knew him because with the remember when he brought the SVRA cars to Indianapolis Motor Speedway and all that, and they had 700 entries or something like that. And he did a Pro-Am race there every year where he got pros to come in to go along with the drivers that were there running SVRA, and he invited me every year. I was only able to make it once, so I had met him previously before. And as you know, Tony was born with deformities on his hands and his feet and what have you, but he always loved cars, and he was born upstate New York. His dad used to take him to some dirt races up in that area. Matter of fact, he's bought a house and a farm type right on Lake Seneca right now because that's where he's a lot of times. And his business is out of Dallas, Texas. So I had met him once when I did that, and then, but I've learned a lot from him now that he came in and bought our stuff. He bought the F4 and FR, and then he also has taken a long-term lease on SCCO Pro Racing. So everything that goes through SCCA Pro Racing right now is through Tony. The man is incredible. He's bought and sold 54 companies in his lifetime. And the last company that he bought was a company called Share Technologies. He bought it for $15 million. That was one of the companies, that was one of the top companies to work for. And then he sold it 10 or 11 years later to Air Electronics, which is part of McLaren. So if you want to see, and he's mid-60s, if you want to see a guy that still today, he's going at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm up early anyways, and I responded when we first started working together when he bought our stuff. I responded to a email that he had sent the night before, and I responded. It was probably 5:30 or something like that in the morning, so I'm going like that, and then he responded right away, and I'm going, oh shit, my God, and I sent him back a note and I go, hey, I'm sorry, I hope your phone didn't go off in your nightstand and what have you. He goes, I'm up at 5:30 every morning, so don't worry about that. So we started then connecting, usually at 6:15, 6:30 in the morning over coffee. That's how we catch up, because that's when he's best to connect with him, right? But he still does that today, and he is got more energy than people half his age, always thinking innovative, good with people. Amazing, because the last company that he sold, Share Technologies, like I said, to Aero, he took 10% of the profits and split it amongst all the employees. And people became very wealthy. He just also sold a big portion of the Speed Tour brand, which he owns. He still owns some of it, but we now have an investor group that has come in and taken over a fair amount of ownership of our group. It's been very helpful. We now have a tractor trailer being built that has full Sims in it. The whole side will fold down, and you'll have a wall of Sims, everything like that. But yeah, he's got more energy and more ideas. It's, somebody told me once it's called lead, follow, or get out of the way.
Yeah.
He leads all the way. Yeah. So you better follow and keep up with him, because he's not slowing down. I don't see him slowing down ever.
And Kim goes along I said, how do you like living out of a suitcase? She said,
Yeah, his wife Kim, and she's pretty brilliant also. It's they work very, very hard, and
work well
and she's there at 6 o'clock in the morning, because when we go to race events, she's in registration.
Yeah.
She's there in the morning,
I know.
and so is he. It's and they leave at 7 or 7:30 at night. It's not like he's a distant owner.
Quite a guy. And I'll send him a message and ask him a question, and he'll answer. I don't do it at 5 o'clock in the morning.
He
Let me
probably answer.
Oh, he does.
Yeah.
I send him something, I get an answer right away.
Yeah, but he'll be here for a PRI show, I imagine, so you should probably ask him to come in and
I've
during the
tried
PRI
that.
show.
He's signing autographs or selling something or buying something usually, but I'll get him one of these days. He'll be here.
Yeah.
Are you happy with your career? Do you wish you could have gone longer? You'd have started sooner? And how did you get into racing? What got you the idea, I want to be a professional race car driver?
I guess the answer to that is, you always want to have done better, but I got involved because my dad owned He was in the car business a little bit, and then he got involved in the motorcycle snowmobile business. And he did that, strange as this may sound. My grandparents owned a cleaning plant in downtown Toronto on Queen Street. Queen Street is one of the main cities in Toronto. And they did a lot of the work for a lot of the big hotels and all that, plus you could take your laundry and all this sort of stuff. My dad got involved in car racing with like a super modified, we're talking like in the 50s, 60s, a long time ago, and an old jalopy that used to run at the C&E grounds on the oval track, which is exactly where the Toronto Indy Car race is today. And so he did all that. He went to a race one weekend and then parted everything back in the back of the building on a Saturday night, and they came back on Monday morning to operate the business and looked out back, and the trailer was gone with both cars on it. And didn't have the money to replace it. So anyways, he didn't do anything for a while. Went and bought a go-kart, did some go-kart racing, and then we were in Toronto on a family vacation. He tells me the story. I was 2, so I don't remember it, obviously. In Buffalo, New York, and went past a go-kart shop in Avon, New York, I guess it was. One in there, they had stuff that wasn't available in Canada. He bought it, put it on the cart. He went from being in the middle of the pack to the front of the pack, and everybody's going, gosh, what's going on with that? And so everybody asked him, hey, that's new. Where'd you get that? He didn't want to tell him, right? So then he goes, might be a business here. So I turned around and bought a bunch of the stuff, went drive over and got some stuff out of some more stuff, came back, started selling it at the track, and then started selling stuff out of the house, and then turned around and took a stab at it and rented a facility in Toronto right on the main street, north end of Toronto, opened up the first store. We told they had 3, and then started selling all that stuff, got involved in go-karts, became a Kawasaki dealer, Bombardier dealer, which makes skidoos, started bringing in Klotz fuel, Weisco pistons, RC cams, Yoshimura product. We had 1,200 dealers across Canada, coast to coast, when he sold the business. It was massive. And just the top machine shop in the country. I'm actually a machinist by trade. And so that's how I got involved in it. And I talked him into letting me go to a school, John Powell School at Mosport, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, and asked him to if I could go Formula Ford racing. He said, well, I'll guide you. So he helped co-sign the loan at the bank, and I borrowed $20,000 at 19 years of age. And obviously on my dad's credit, not on my credit. And I went Formula Ford racing and did that for 3 years and ended up still in debt, owing family money, him money. I owed $87,000, and I stopped. That's when I opened up the school, because we had found a partner for that. And then 2 years later, got a chance to go and race a car with a Canadian team that I had run for before, and their driver couldn't make it. Do you want to come and run with it? I did, and luckily got to the track at Trois-Rivières, Quebec, and won the race in Formula 2000. And then the next weekend at Mosport, ran into a guy walking across the grass area from the pit lane to turn 8, and he was riding his golf cart. He was from Texas, and he stopped beside me, big hat on, cowboy boots. He says, boy, where you going? I said, I'm walking over to turn 8 to watch cars. He said, hop on. So we ended up in a conversation. A couple months later, he calls. I'm actually in Houston, Texas. He's got race cars and all that sort of stuff in a shop. He's an oil trader, but had, loved cars. He had his nephew driving at that point in time. I went down there, and he had an old Trans Am car, Sports 2000 car, a bunch of stuff. And then I ended up driving a lot of that stuff, and then started to learn some tracks. That was a long, long time ago, in 1985. He said, what do you want to do next year? I said, I'd love to go Formula Atlantic racing. He goes, well, let's get one of those ordered. So we ended up buying a Formula Atlantic car, won the championship. And we had just, remember ARS, Pat Patrick started Indy Light Series?
Yeah.
So we put all the Atlantic stuff up for sale. Had ordered the ARS cars, the engine and all that sort of stuff. And he came in close to Thanksgiving. 10 days before Thanksgiving in 1986, we won the championship. Walked in and said, boys, we're all done. And we looked at him and thought, well, usually when he comes and says that, we're going to dinner, quite frankly, okay? Sometimes to his lake house on Lake LBJ, because he had a jet. We'd all get cleaned up and jump in the jet and go. It was like living like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I was coming out of this, I'm no relation to Goodyear, obviously. A small little house in Canada. I was just like, this is absolutely crazy. And then and we said, where are we going? He says, oh, we're not going anywhere. He says, my wife just gave me divorce papers. Everything's being sold. And he walked out. And then the mechanics and I are looking at each other, and we're going, what? So we ended up with that, and then that was on a Friday. and then I went to his office every Monday morning, and he was a trader, so he was at 3 in the morning because he was trading around the world, no trailer. And then I walked in, and his secretary, I remember it like it was yesterday, Joe Dell, said, he's not very happy. And I said to her, I go, he said that his wife gave him divorce, but yes, he did, and he's not very happy. So he walked in there, and he confirmed everything was up for sale. He canceled the order for the Indy Lights cars, at that time ARS cars, and so we packed up all the stuff, and then everything had been sold for the Atlantic stuff anyways. There was hardly anything left. We were just waiting for the new cars, which obviously didn't come. I put everything in my Volkswagen Golf and loaded it all back into it and drove home on Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving's before, American Thanksgiving, and arrived back in Toronto, numb, not knowing what I was going to do. So, unfortunately, got into car racing up there a little bit, ended up getting involved with Porsche, got it Audi test, ended up with factory Audi team, Porsche Audi team, and then Mr. O'Donnell with McKinsey Financial Corporation. And I'm talking a lot, so if you have to finish here. So when the end result, I'm in Canada, or Canadian, so I'm racing in Le Mans that year, and they have a big Canadian contingent over there from Canada. Mr. O'Donnell, the founder and president for McKinsey Financial Corporation, was there because he's a Porsche customer, and we were staying at this chateau, and Leslie and I come in from doing a run, and I said to her, I go, oh, big long table, like as long as this room longer, you know, had breakfast tables there in the big chateaus that you stay at. And I said to her, I go, look down the, I said, that's Mr. O'Donnell from McKinsey Financial Corporation. He owns an Indy Car team. Ludwig Heimrath was running for him at that point in time. And he turned around and he got up and walked away. He always had a bodyguard guy with him. So he walked in, and then he walked out of there, and I thought, maybe we'll meet him at the track this weekend, like to say hello. Walked around there, came in the back door and tapped me on the shoulder and goes, hi. My name's Jim O'Donnell. You probably don't know who I am. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, dude, I know who you are, right? It was pretty funny. And then he said, we're thinking about running 2 cars this year. This is 1989, one in Toronto and the other one at Road America, because Chicago's a big market for them. And he looked at me, and this is exactly how he said it. Would you be interested in doing that? I'm going, really? I go, yes. He said, here's our information. Call me when you get back. And then we were staying an extra week. I was actually getting engaged. My wife didn't know at that time. I had the ring in my jean pocket all the time. So we stayed an extra week and got engaged in France. And then came home. And I called like at 9:01 that next Monday morning, right? And I still remember the lady's name. His name was Deborah Kemp. He said, call this lady. So I expected to call and, never get a meeting and what have you. Call. She goes, oh, he's been waiting for your call. Are you available this Thursday? Yeah, I'm available anytime, really, if you really want to know the truth about the whole thing. So, yeah, so I went down there, and that Thursday we sat and had lunch in the big, huge tower in downtown Toronto. And, he said, okay, we're going to go off racing. That's how I got involved in Indy Car racing, and then as strange as it was. So it goes on and on, yeah. Remember, I used to get paid to talk. You're asking me a question here, so there you go.
It's all right.
Yeah, so we got involved in Indy Car racing through McKinsey Financial Corporation. That was 89. And then I was doing stuff with Audi factory in Germany. Remember those Quattros here?
Yeah.
It was Hans Stuck and Walter Roll in one car. We call that the tall car because they're like 6'4", 6'5". And then I was in a car with Hurley Haywood, the normal size people. So, and I was doing that. And then I knew I was going to get an offer from Audi to drive full time the following year, 1990. And then this came along, and I wanted to go to Indy. That's the only thing I ever wanted to do in life was drive Indy. So obviously I took the Indy contract. So that's how I got here. So,
well, if anybody wondered how it happened, now you know.
Yeah, and I always said I'd finish at 40, and I retired at 40, and then got asked by Eddie Cheever to come and do the Infinity program, and I was 41 at that time, and lasted, maybe 7 laps of that race in 2001 before I ended up having a crash out, and then broke my back for the second time. So that was the end. Dr. Trammell said, you almost are not walking. So you need to think about what you're doing. And just as you'll have to edit all this is really long. So when I first had my first broken back in Brazil in 96, Leslie had just been in the hospital and delivered Michael. And so she'd been home for a week, and then I left to go to Brazil. Unfortunately, getting crashed out there or having the rear wing failure, and then being flown home on a jet to come home and, with a cast on and going to Methodist and all that sort of stuff because I couldn't go on a commercial plane. I had to wait for the FedEx shipping plane with all the equipment on it because they would not take you in this cast in case the plane went down or whatever the deal was, right? So anyways, that was the first time. My wife wasn't around at that point in time. So I just arrived home from a different country with a broken back, and she has a newborn at home that's, you know, a 1.5-year-old, Christopher was 18 months, and then obviously a newborn. So she had a lot of work on her hands. But this time here, she was there, came down to Methodist, and they get the x-rays, and they put the x-rays up there. I'm looking at them, and I said, oh, I go, he put the circle. This is way long before, you know, put the circle on there with his pen. And I go, oh, that's where I broke my back in Brazil. And he looked at me and goes, no, that's where you broke your back today, right beside where you broke it in Brazil. And so you just did these 3 vertebrae. And my wife's looking, and she looks at me, and she goes, oh, good. We broke our back again. So I could tell I wasn't that really popular at that point in time. So that was the end of that. So did sports car stuff and then got involved in television. So and 17 years doing TV and started with Paul Page. That was fun.
Well, you have had an interesting career, to say the least.
It's been fun. So now I feel like I'm giving back a little bit to all the young drivers, which is fun. And, you know, and watch them grow and learn. And if anything, sports teaches you highs and lows. Doesn't matter if it's going to be for stuff personally in life or for business. And the kids are good to deal with. The parents can be a little difficult once in a while. Yeah. And I understand that, so I now get parent meetings together, because when you think about it, they're emotionally invested into it because their daughter or son is racing. And then when something happens on the track and there's a crash, then first off, you know, we've never really had any issues. So the drivers are getting out of the car. We've only 5 years I've been doing it. Only I've probably had 2, maybe 3 go to the hospital. And then, but anyways, they get out of the car and the driver's okay, so they come back to look at it. They're emotional because of that, because they're going through it usually for the first time. They're emotional again when they look at the race car, and then they see how much damage is on it. And then they get extra emotional when they find out the bill's going to be about $8,000 or $10,000. So, yeah, so it's a bit of an educational process for them.
Well, I think that obviously Tony knows what he's doing. He's got the series in the right hands as somebody that understands from the bottom up the whole thing. So,
well, and you have to. We just had a media training center session at the last race. So we teach both on and off the track. So I think you would agree today that motor racing is more difficult off the track than it is on the track. So that's what we do. So we hope we're doing a good job anyways.
Well, I'm sure you are. Otherwise, Tony would have said goodbye a long time ago. He doesn't fool around.
Yeah, we're all fun. Working for him is a privilege. So he's got a lot of good people there. So we're very good. We're very wealthy.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and unfortunately for you, I know how to get a hold of you. So at
always
some point
do.
in time,
always enjoy when you ring. Always ring you back. Always love coming up to the shows.
He does actually.
And yeah, I mean, how many years were you at the location? Gosh, going there for years actually. I can't remember. On high school, McGilvery's, yeah.
Yeah, was there for 29 years.
Is that right?
And then when they had the pandemic, they shut down, and I did them on Zoom. Mm-hmm. And then when they went back to open, I said, "You want us back? We'll have a meeting. We'll get back to you." He never said anything, so I asked Tom, the owner here. He said, "Sure, come on."
Okay.
So here we are.
There you go. Yeah.
So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And all your explanation of how you got there and why you didn't do this and that, and your son's a pilot. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than having to buy him race cars.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I enjoy going up with him right now, just in a little plane, and just having fun. You know, you get to see a lot more of the countryside when you're going up there and flying around, like in a little Sears or something like that. It's fun.
You don't get stuck in a traffic jam when they're doing construction on the highway. You just fly over and say, ha, ha.
Well, actually, I have not flown with him probably in over a year and a half because of the level that he's at right now with everything that he's doing. He's training so much right now. And like I just said, it was in a simulator in Dallas. Hardly ever see him. It's fun stuff.
Well, thanks for coming here.
Thank you.
Thanks for what's going on, and we'll look forward to someday down the road. You'll hear from me again.
Yeah, and we'll be back at Indy next year on Father's Day weekend with all the Trans Am's coming back next year. We're having our stuff come, and then also all the SVRA stuff. So it should be fun.
Good weekend.
But thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Scott Goodyear.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Things. Good luck to you going forward.
I always tell them I used to get paid to talk, so look at it.
My next guest is a gentleman that you may probably have heard of. If you're a short track fan, you've heard of him. You've probably seen him run. He's won a number of major events and is now the current owner, bought from his brother and sister-in-law, the Speedway Indoor Karting Center. Please welcome Kyle O'Gara.
Thanks, Don.
Was there ever a minute in your life that you didn't think you'd be involved in motorsports one way or another?
I don't think so. You know, kind of born into it with my dad, running a bunch of teams and being involved with it. And I only played stick and ball sports for maybe 1 year, and that didn't go well. So ended up here.
Well, in case you don't know, his dad was a team manager for Dry and Rainbow last, I believe, but he was around for a long time. And if you wanted to know where he was, you say, "Where's Johnny O?" That's what he went by. And your brother was a driver for a while.
Andy ran for a long time, grew up racing karts, moved into midgets, and ran some Formula Car stuff too.
Yeah.
And like just about everyone else, ran out of money and started wrenching on them.
There you go. And he was a mechanic, a crew chief, a team manager, and then he married a driver you've probably heard of and everybody knows, somebody by the name of Sarah Fisher. And he ran their team for him. It's just been one thing after another. First off, what's the biggest race that you've won, the most exciting race, the one that meant the most to you?
Probably Thursday Night Thunder at IRP. We won that a couple of years ago, and that's a long time coming. So anytime you get to win a Thursday Night Thunder race out there is pretty cool.
You've won a lot of major races across the country, and you now travel with the sprint tour, and you do run occasionally in USAC. But tell me a little bit about this sprint tour. I know you're going up tomorrow, I think, up to Michigan to run.
Yeah, doubleheader this weekend in Michigan. So the 500 Sprint Car Tour formed 2 years ago, based around the Little 500 at Anderson Speedway. That's kind of our main event for the year. We run about 10 to 12 races throughout the season, starting in April, running through October. Stick to the Midwest for the most part. Like you said, heading up to Michigan for the doubleheader this weekend. We race at Anderson Speedway. We race at IRP just a couple minutes from here.
Yeah.
We ran Nashville Fairgrounds last year, Toledo Speedway, Lorain County Speedway in Ohio. We do a bit of traveling around the Midwest, but everything's a couple hours from home and get to come home to your own bed every night.
And then you get to go to the office in the morning.
And you still got the office job Monday to Friday.
Well, how are things at Speedway Indoor Karting?
It's been good. I told you right before the show, in about a week and a half, we'll celebrate our first year of ownership. So we're all looking forward to that and survive the first year, which is the big milestone for us.
Do you have a lot of damage to the karts? I mean, you got amateurs who want to go out and have a good time, and there are walls and things that you can hit, and I assume they do on occasion.
Yeah, we employ 2 full-time mechanics in the back. There's plenty of kart damage throughout the week, so 2 full-time mechanics in the back, and then plenty of part-time help back there as well.
You know, when I went to look up a bio on you, I went to your website, which was a disaster. The last entries were in 2015. I thought, well, no, he's advanced since then. But what I did find about you, what you're best known for is your consistency. If you don't have a mechanical problem, you're generally in the top 5, if not on the podium or win. You've got a lot of wins under your belt, some major events.
Yeah, we've had a good last couple of years. You know, we went through kind of a rough patch, 2016 to 2019. And then kind of started turning it around. So we've been a lot more balanced the past couple of years. We've had winning seasons, which is good, and opened up this year with a win down in Florida with the Dave Steele Memorial Race down there. And we've been very fortunate the past couple of years to bring home some hardware.
Well, being fortunate, I think, doesn't really mean anything. First off, you got to have a car, which you have a good crew that gives you a car. You have to be able to drive it. And then you got to avoid some of the nitwits that don't know how to drive or think they're going to make a move that's not really good. So, but your career, in fact, your brother Andy has said he's really a major improvement. And Sarah said the same thing, that you learned well over the years. Now, you have run Silver Crown. I know you had a car and you've sold it. But do you still get in them every so often, get a call to
Yeah, we did some testing earlier this year with a AMAX racing team. They're out of Whiteland, Indiana, just Southside team. They purchased our Silver Crown car at the end of last year. I think we're going to do a little bit of racing with them maybe end of this year, beginning of next year. Yeah, we've been fortunate to have some teams reach out to opportunities to go drive for other people. And I drive for Andy and Sarah with the sprint car and the midget, but I try to keep the opportunities open. We're lucky, and I get a few phone calls a year to go drive other people's race cars, and Andy and Sarah kind of give me my own options to choose what we race.
And they're still backing you.
Yeah, they're still backing us. Andy and Sarah have had some great partners over the year with the development team, which is SFHR Development, and Wink Hartman's still around with us a little bit. Big Red Liquors is still on board with the midget. We've had partners come and go with the sprint car, and we just kind of go with go with it as it goes. Go roll with it.
So what's your favorite? Which one do you like better, this midget or car?
Sprint car is where we find home. Mm-hmm. The midget racing is getting very expensive very fast, as everyone knows, and trying to race for $4,000 or $5,000 with a $45,000 motor doesn't always add up when you're only racing a couple times a year. So the sprint car has the opportunity to make money every time it hits the track. It doesn't take as much money to maintenance and to keep the effort running. So we get a series to call home around the Midwest, and can potentially, if you can break even in racing, that's a good season.
And you just had a rather severe mishap, did you not? And having had the car put back together in order to go to Michigan this weekend.
Yeah, we had a big crash about a month and a half ago at Anderson Speedway. Started fairly deep in the pack. We were fighting in the top 5 about 30 laps into the race, and had a car spin halfway down the straightaway in front of us as we were passing them, and we kind of end over end and landed onto the banking and destroyed a car. So we rode a car off up there. That was really our first big crash in probably 5 or 6 years. So it was good on that front that we don't tear a lot of stuff up, and it was good that we had a month and a half break before the next race. So Bob East, I'm sure everyone knows that name.
Yeah.
We ran out to their shop as quick as we could and got an order in for a new chassis, and it was finished about a week and a half ago, and we fired the car up last Saturday morning. So it was a quick turnaround for our crew chief, Brad. He's busted his butt on this thing, and it's turned into his baby. So we'll hopefully it'll get through the weekend, and we'll try to chase some trophies.
Yeah, well, I saw the picture of the car. It was just done. You said it was done and ready to go. Picture of it in the shop. And I thought, well, it must be destroyed one somewhere. But again, the thing that impressed me the most about what I did find about you after I got over the 2015 website was your consistency. And that's what this article talked about, was your consistency. That once you're on the track, if somebody doesn't spin in front of you and catch you up, they'll find you in the top 5, and more often than not, you'll be waving from the podium.
Yeah, we've completed over the last season. I think we completed 98% of the laps, or somewhere close to that number-wise. We had one engine failure last year that kind of took us out of the championship. We've been inside the top 3 in the championship fight the past 2 years, and it's came down to the last race every time. So we're right there. We're fighting the best in the business with Cody Swanson and Tyler Rohrig and Bobby Santos, and we've made our name for ourselves the past couple of years, and we're one of the favorites going in now. So I think we're finally made the name, and everyone kind of knows where we're at now.
If you can give Cody Swanson a tussle, you're doing something.
Yeah, Cody's the best in the business right now in the sprint car and Silver Crown world, and him and I became good friends over the past couple of years and lean on each other a bit, and always give a hard time to him when I see him. So we'll spend the weekend battling on track and see where it ends up.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Somebody mentioned me the other day, a week or so ago. Said, "You ever seen Cody race?" I said, "Oh yeah." "You ever notice whenever he wins, he cries?" I said, "Yeah, I've noticed that." So I stayed away from him. Otherwise, he might blame it on me.
I give him a hard time about that. Just about every time I see him.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, if you can stay close to those guys and get on a podium with them, you're doing one heck of a job, because they're tough to beat.
Yeah, they're and those guys have been doing it significantly longer than us. We were a little late to the party with the pavement sprint car racing, and they got about 8 or 10 years on us. So their notebook's a little bit deeper than ours, but we're building it as we go, and we're figuring it out. We're getting there.
When I first met you, you were just a young boy. Now you're a married man. What does your wife think of this racing business?
She worked in racing before we were married on the PR side with a company called Grand Solutions. They were on Main Street in Speedway.
Yeah. I remember her.
She went to Butler, and she's a big basketball fan. She doesn't really care about racing much at all, so blows my family's mind. But no, we have been very, very lucky to meet her and to kind of grow with her. She puts up with me racing, so that's a good thing. Doesn't keep me home, and we're doing good.
Did she drag you to Butler basketball games?
We go to a couple games at Hinkle a year.
There you go. For those who don't know, there's a place in Beech Grove. It's called O'Gara's Irish Pub, if I remember the last time I saw it. That's where your dad and mom hang out. How are they doing?
They're doing good. Mom is semi-retired now, still helping Andy and Sarah with the Whiteland CART track. Dad's still running the pub as normal. He's there 5 or 6 days a week. But they're celebrating 22 years this year at the pub.
Really?
So
Jeez.
Yeah, time went quick.
You're not kidding, because we went there when they first got it. I said, "You got to be kidding!" I could see what a Indy Car team manager does in a bar.
Yeah, that
Done
was
well.
That the joke was always that was Dad's dream to open the pub, but then Mom ran it the first 5 years probably. So, they're still up and going strong, and they'll be celebrating 21, 22 years this year.
Good for them. I haven't been there in a while. I stopped in a year or so ago, and I found out that the meeting hall next door, Andy and Sarah own that one.
Andy and Sarah bought that, about 2 years ago and refinished it. They have a little event space right next to the pub, so lots of events going on over there and tied back with catering and stuff from the pub. And it's a cool little area.
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody says the O'Garas don't know what they're doing, don't know what they're talking about, it's great. Has Sarah been a help to you in driving as you started out? Because I know I was having a conversation with she and her dad one day, and I said to her, I noticed Sarah when in a midget, when she drives, she's not all over the track like a lot of midget drivers are. And he said, I told her 1,000 times, if not more, the shortest distance to go is straight. None of this business, you're going farther. And she said, yeah, he got it in my head, and she drove like that, because I was out at Winchester when she set the record against all the guys that had been there all the years prior. She broke the track record that day. Thought, boy.
Yeah, Sarah's been a big help. She traveled with us for a long time with the midget side, and even through the karting side. I leaned on her a lot early in my career, and we grew together as a family, really. Her and Andy took me under their wing, and we kind of traveled the country racing karts and midgets at the beginning. Doesn't come to as many races anymore as the family's growing and as their businesses have grown, but she's still one phone call away, still comes to a lot of the local races, and is a good shoulder to lean on.
Yeah, you're not kidding. She was good. One of the better probably the best female driver ever to drive Indy cars. Did better than anybody that I can think of offhand. And a nice lady.
Yeah, she's done a lot, and they give back a lot, and they're heavily involved with the karting community and bringing new kids up through go karting and kind of the next generation, kind of in between where Scott's at with the F4 and F3 programs, and then kids getting going. So it's another stepping stone.
And when I talked to Andy about coming in here. I said, how's your son doing? It's Danny, I believe. How's he doing? He said, he's had the best season of his career so far. He's doing spectacular. So it looks like
Yeah.
there's another one on the way.
They opened the season up with a Super Carts, a national win down in Florida. He's won a bunch of the Midwest stuff up here, and they're traveling up to Road America this weekend to race karts. Just him and Danny, so they're just father and son this weekend in the motorhome. So hopefully they come back alive and don't hurt each other. No supervision up there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, have you got any aspirations to move up out of sprint cars?
I'm pretty happy where we're at. We got to play around with the Indy Lights stuff in 2013 and 2014, and everyone knows how expensive it is to compete in that and do it properly. I wouldn't take it out of consideration of doing a one-off race if a race came back to the speedway or something like that. But happy where I'm at right now. We have a business to take care of Monday to Friday, and still get to go racing on the weekends where we're at right now. And I've always said, as long as I'm in a seat, I'm happy. I'm almost 30 years old now, so we're getting up there for a race car driver. So, but we're happy where we're at, and I don't plan on going anywhere anytime soon.
Well, I probably shouldn't bring this up, but I've got shoes that are 30 years old, and I wear them. So, if that means anything, doesn't, but, it's interesting to watch, because I met your dad 35 years ago, probably, and to see what's happened, what he was in the motorsports, and then your brother got into it, and now you're into it, and their son is into it. Good grief. Are you going to have, you have a child, I think, don't you?
No kids, no. Just we got 2 golden retrievers running around.
Well,
We're sticking with that right now.
Oh, I was going to say, you can't put them in a car.
No, we have Marissa and I have 26 nieces and nephews running around.
Oh.
So we have plenty of nieces and nephews and godkids that we can go steal when we want to and take them back home at the end of the day.
That's the best part. You stay home. Bye. We'll see you tomorrow. Oh, well, that's all right. Just buy a set of golf clubs and keep them just in case you have a son sometime down there. Say, here's what you want to do.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've been impressed with what I've seen when I've seen you race, which is not as often as I used to go. And obviously the O'Gara blood does have racing genes in it somewhere because everybody's into it. So I wish you nothing but the best. And I'll be looking forward to trying to, since you do have a website, update the damn thing.
I didn't even know it was still around until you said that, so maybe we'll get a little bit of work done on that.
You don't get a bill for it?
I don't
get
see
a bill.
it.
Oh, you don't see it, okay. Well, I get a bill for mine, so I figure you must get one. Maybe you don't, I don't know.
Somebody probably gets it.
Yeah, well, whatever. So, I want to wish you nothing but the best, and I thank you for taking the time, and good luck this weekend. I'm sure you probably would have been packed up and ready to go had you not been here tonight.
I still got a little bit of packing to do, but we'll get it done. I appreciate the call to come out, and hopefully we'll drag Andy and maybe Danny out here next time.
Well, he and Sarah were going to come till he realized the 22nd is not a Tuesday, it's a Thursday. When I called him or texted him, are you ready? He said, oops. So no big deal. We'll get him. Appreciate you coming. Good luck to you, and I am extremely impressed with what I've read about what you've done, because I remember when you first started, it was a struggle. You did struggle, but boy, you've obviously figured it out. So good luck to you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having us out.
It's great to see you. Kyle O'Gara. Keep your eyes on him. You'll see him somewhere if you haven't seen him already. As I said, the next programs will be in September, and I think I forget what I said, when they are. September 2nd to 14th, I think it is. But you'll hear from me. And I'm working, whatever. Maybe I can't read my own writing. Wait a minute, it's on my phone. I'll solve this problem. I'm a genius. I'll tell you when it is in just a second. September 12th and the 24th. I even wrote it down wrong. 12 and 24, October 9 and 22. So And I'm working on a very interesting program upcoming that you'll probably be interested in seeing. So thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for watching. Until the next time, Don Kay saying thanks. See you again.